episode of the Adeptus Ridiculous podcast. My name is DK Diamantes, his name is Bricky, and oh boy, it's a Kirioth episode. But before we get into that, if you enjoy today's episode of the podcast and maybe you want to support us, feel free to head on over to patreon.com/Adeptus Ridiculous, where you can get access to the Discord, bloopers if they happen. $15 tier gets you access to all of our posters in crispy HD digital format. It's great. Patreon.com/Adeptus Ridiculous. Bricky, how about that merch? And what about that book? That big book?
Well, I mean, the big book, it's the Big Daka.
Hell yeah, brother.
The Big Daka, and the Big Daka's gotta be read. Probably doing that book club pretty darn soon. So make sure you get that book finished. Check it out. And also go to orchid8.com or check out the link in this description of this video to get yourself some phenomenal merchandising. Let's go. You do merchandising now? You're really branching out that merch store. Rick the Flamethrower. Kids love this one.
Kids love it.
Hell yeah. Check it out.
I love a good Spaceballs reference. Honestly, I'm disappointed that you all haven't already bought merch. Before the episode even starts, you should have rushed to orchid8.com and bought everything.
I stab people who don't buy.
Wow, that's
that's right.
That's extreme, brother. Like there's disappointment and then there's assault. Okay,
that's a lot of work.
That is wow. That's a. I am
Mr.
not
Kirioth.
letting you near my mom.
Mr. Kirioth, sir and friend.
For so many reasons.
Sir and friend, you have arrived upon this stream the day of my daughter's wedding. And you, in fact, have had a very light month.
Yes.
No.
I am so disappointed you didn't do the Marlon Brando like voice. Well, you come to me on the day of my daughter. Yeah, really? You can't do the Brando voice?
Was that the voice though?
Well, I don't have cotton balls stuck in my. I don't have cotton balls stuck in my mouth, so I can't really do the Marlon Brando thing.
Then why are you mad that I couldn't do the Marlon Brando thing?
Because you always have balls in your mouth. Let's go, Kirioth. What are we doing today?
Wow.
Damn, he see it's not good because you zinged yourself.
That was impressive. That was
anyway. What?
Oh my god! All right, Kirioth. Tell me about balls.
I mean, we can go into balls, but it might have to wait for a future episode because that's going to require. I mean, technically, we sort of did some last month with the whole Demon Worlds thing, but that was last month, right? I get very confused. It's
okay. It's Kirioth. What are we doing today, buddy? It doesn't have to be balls. It's okay. What are we doing?
Thank you. That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
I have a quote for you.
Shit!
Super
what?
Easy.
No!
Super easy. You'll be absolutely fine. You'll totally get this straight away, okay?
All right. I don't believe you. Shy doesn't believe you.
Have faith.
Bricky doesn't believe you. None of us believe you.
We do not wither before the flames of war, for our resolve is like steel and only hardens with heat. Do not let these new foes forget who we are. Show them our strength and our unbending fury.
That's that quote can be attributed to like 9,000 factions.
So since there's such a huge emphasis on heat, like my mind immediately goes to like salamanders, but like we've done all we could do on salamanders, and I somehow don't think you would do an episode on salamanders.
I can see that.
So, like, there's also a part of me that thinks you're going to be doing, like, a deep dive on how a melta works or something. Because it's a machine, it's a weapon. Honestly, I got nothing, dude. I got nothing.
A full hour on how meltas work would test
like,
the fans' resolve, I reckon.
It's like
that would
melta, heavy flamers, holy weapons, holy fire, I don't know, dude. What are we doing, Kirioth? Because how was that an easy one?
I like how DK just decides to immediately assume that he's the only one who's allowed to answer the quote, and then just skips right over me.
Oh, sorry,
like,
Bricky.
It's
Bricky usually me.
He doesn't need to guess at all.
Sorry, Bricky. What are you?
Goodness gracious!
Sorry,
he takes a whole monologue. He doesn't even let me have my.
Sorry,
parts.
it's usually just me. I'm not used to the Kirioth one every month where we both get to answer. Sorry.
You did say the fire is in the anvil type thing. I did actually kind of think Sally's also, but I kind of get like a little vibe of like Fugan. Like a little fire dragon type thing, because you say unending fury, and then like I don't know, it goes, and then they kind of had this like interloper doodad, which is kind of like evil aliens or you like lesser species. But I'm assuming I'm not quite right.
Good guess though.
Yeah, I mean it's not bad. There's a couple of key words in there. I mean one of them is, it kind of narrows it down a fair bit, but one of them is the mention of steel. And the other is the unbending fury. So you're not
Krons?
No. This is
Krons aren't steel,
faction.
right?
Yeah, I guess Krons aren't steel. That's a good point. Yeah,
they're necrodermis. And
steel and unending fury. So the funny part about unending fury is that is kind of chaos coded, but it's also totally Imperium coded.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like Iron Hands.
No, you're getting like the metal side of things you've really honed in on, but there is a human faction, or at least a sub-faction, that has the whole metal thing going that you haven't quite stumbled into yet. It's our old favourites, the Imperial Guard, the Steel Legion.
Oh, that okay. Yeah.
Would I have known that?
No, you wouldn't.
I'll be honest. I was mostly gassing you up with the mild expectation that you were going to fail, but I really hoped that you would pull it off. I'm not gonna lie.
that one would have been tough for me, honestly. That the Steel Legion, that would have been tough. I don't believe I've ever heard of them, but yeah, that's rough. That's rough. Thank you for having faith in me, though. But I have, as my parents well know this feeling, I have disappointed you.
No, never. I believe in you. You get knocked down, you get back up again. That's how it works.
You're never going to keep me down.
Yeah, exactly. I was really hoping that you would carry that on. Excellent. So, yeah, we're going to talk about the Armageddon Steel Legion, because they are I think they're one of my favourite Imperial Guard regiments. Their life starts out rough, right? Armageddon, as a planet, I mean, there is probably an entire episode to be done on each of the wars for Armageddon. They're currently on the third. It's a trilogy, except if you've read the series about the Beast, spoiler alert, technically...
How depressing must that be? It's like, oh, what's your home planet? Armageddon. It's like, oh, sounds lovely. Sounds like a lovely place to visit. I'll come visit never.
So... Armageddon has had, or is in the process of having, its third war. It still hasn't stopped. It's still going.
In the process. Sorry.
But
it's also kind of funny, though, because like the Armageddon's not a great place to live, but the fact that Armageddon is less dangerous than Catachan is just kind of funny as a concept.
Oh, yeah.
Catachan's significantly more dangerous than the Armageddon.
Also, being Armageddon, it means it's the Armageddon sector. So it's like it's applied to everywhere. Everywhere's awful, apparently. It's an interesting planet because they wrote a whole series about the Beast, and it kind of comes up there as well, which is a whole thing that could probably again be gotten into in a separate episode. There is a lot of baggage attached to Armageddon, which means that, funnily enough, the Steel Legion they're kind of unique in a way. When it comes to the Imperial Guard, there is not a huge number of regiments that have like a large amount of mechanized infantry, so infantry supported by chimeras, transports. Armageddon, however, with the Steel Legion, have a massive number of mechanized infantry, because Armageddon itself produces a ton of chimeras. And because they produce a ton of chimeras, that means the Steel Legion gets to keep quite a lot of them for themselves, which is super, super handy because the world that they are on and the world that they come from is constantly beset by war between Orks, Imperium, and demons. Just constantly. The Third War for Armageddon didn't technically stop. It just carried on. There's still the primary hive of Armageddon, Hive Acheron. That is constantly under attack, and you can literally at any given point during any time of any day of any year hear the shells of artillery falling as the war just rages on around that particular hive. Armageddon also being a hive planet means you've got a ton of these hive cities which are full of gangers, brutal gang wars, and the Steel Legion themselves often get recruited from those gangs. And in times of like dire, desperate need, they will recruit like an entire like ganger organization into the Steel Legion themselves, which is super handy because that means that by the time they get to the Imperial Guard and by the time they start training, most of them, they already know how to fight because they've been killing people in the hive cities from the moment they're able to hold some sort of horrible weapon.
So Armageddon is just 24/7 war. Like it just don't stop. They are just constantly at war. And Steel Legion, very to their name, have a lot of, steel mechanized stuffs.
I find the Armageddon to be kind of like the I wouldn't say cheap, but like I don't know. It's like you had Cadia, right? Well, you had Cadia. You had Cadia, and Cadia was like the go-to never-ending war main export. Like Ayaterra's right next to it, manufacture kind of thing. But I always feel like Cadia always got the good stuff. And so Cadia was like, yeah, we're the forever war people, but we're also like top dog. We're the Valley Girls of war people. Armageddon is like, yeah, I live the same life, but I'm poor as shit, and I'm in the dirt, and this sucks.
I will now forever always hear Cadian soldiers in the Valley Girl voice.
The Valley Girl Cadians. Yep.
Like, oh my god, we're right next to the Eye of Terror, and my dad is like such a good warrior, I'm fighting off demons.
God. What is that giant 8-pointed star coming from the sky? It's getting bigger.
Oh my god. I guess we'll just have to kill demons.
I think that might be the worst thing I've ever heard. I think it might be up there.
Wow, really? Cadian Valley Girl is the worst thing you've ever heard?
I gotta be honest, brother. You've heard worse.
Yeah, you have not. You've been around us for long enough to have heard worse than Cadian Valley Girl.
That's absolutely fair. Also, the last sentence left by Shy. I feel like we've failed that immediately. So that's excellent.
Oh no, I didn't even see that before we went into Cadian Valley Girl.
Yeah, okay. No one say anything about it.
Yeah.
And then, when it comes to the edit, be a nice surprise. Be a lovely surprise. Going. Yeah, pretend that didn't happen.
Love to see what image she puts in for that one.
Oh God, that is going to be bad.
Yeah.
So, the Steel Legion have something that I think really sets them apart outside of like vast numbers of chimeras, which, by the way, just a note, when it comes to them like committing acts of war, one of their tactics is legitimately just to drive vast numbers of chimeras into the enemy and then get out and start shooting, which 10 out of 10 tactic. Huh. I absolutely love that. That's fantastic. Ooh. Just drive them in there and then get out, start blasting.
Why would you get out of the chimera? Isn't the chimera fairly heavily fortified though? Like, doesn't it have like big guns and stuff on it? Or am I thinking of something different?
It's got las guns sticking out of the top, which are technically I think the las guns of the actual people inside. And
have you seen the las guns sticking out of the top, Kirioth? Like in the model, they look so derpy. It's just like little really circly rotating things.
Yeah.
Can I see a picture of the chimera? I
got you.
Okay.
The chimera. Okay, the chimera is a troop transport. It's an APC. And so the whole point of it is like, here's a couple guns on it, but then you're driving up a squad of 10 people, and then they jump out and then they beat the shit out of you.
Okay, I thought it was like just like a tank. I didn't realize it was a troop transport deal.
Yeah,
no, you're thinking of like the Leman Russ.
Yeah. Oh, it's got the bulldozer front too. Oh, that's that now it makes sense as to why you would just like, oh yeah, right into a bunch of enemies and then just unload, like just steamroll them with the bulldozer front shovel thing. And oh, that's great. Okay, yeah, I get it now. I'm on board.
Ram them in the face, get out the back, and then shoot them in the face.
Okay, cool. And surely one person stays on that top turret and just,
Yeah. Well, that's the guy, the driver and the turret and everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, like Steel Legion is very much the. And Kirioth, I'm sure you were getting to this, but so to jump the gun a teeny bit, it's very much like the Blitzkrieg faction because that was
makes sense.
Yeah, that was kind of that was the strat. And the 40s was like really, really fast. Go forward, take things, and kind of deal. And so when you load up a bunch of APCs full of guys and you just send them out in droves, and not just like in droves, like in Imperial Guard level droves, that you're gonna overwhelm everybody.
Also, wow, that is a big flamer that guard is holding.
Yeah.
Oof, like good lord, that is almost as big as him.
And they look obviously. Solid. If you couldn't tell it already, they definitely have a bit of a 40s like uniform design with the coats and everything, and the drab.
Definitely a World War aesthetic for sure. Well, I guess that's the Guard in general, right? Is sort of the old school World War uniforms.
Yeah, but Kriegsman is very much like World War I. This is much more World War II.
Yeah,
that kind of deal. Dudes from the 40s fighting stuff from beyond the void.
It's kind of a mix for the Steel Legion. So if I remember right, the coats are based on World War I stuff, like British World War One great coats, whereas the helmets are like 100% World War II German stuff. So they've kind of, they've kind of done the same thing that they do with a lot of it, where they just take a couple of things that look cool and then just mangle them together to make one thing that looks pretty cool.
Well, and they do a blitzkrieg, right? And that was a very World War II German thing, right? The blitzkrieg offensive that helped them basically conquer big swaths of Europe because nobody was ready for it.
Very fast moving. Take everything incredibly quickly. And I guess I don't know, I'm Armageddon. I don't know, Kirioth, They're very fast because of their whole steel, APC carriers and stuff like that. But I feel like they're not like Talon Raiders fast. They're more about just having lots of mechanized infantry.
Yeah, they're sort of, I guess, the kind of middle ground in a way. They're a lot more implacable because they have all of that, all of the transports and tanks and so on. And so they might not be as fast as Talon offensives, but they've got quite a lot of staying power because pretty much all the squads have got a transport with them. So they're all that little bit more protected than most other Imperial Guard regiments. So they do get in there quickly, but they also have the added advantage of just having a lot of armor to back them up and to get them into the fight as fast as possible. Plus they also have the sort of iconic look that they've got with the gas masks and the trench coats and stuff. That's all there to protect them primarily on Armageddon. So if they go outside, if you just wander about in Armageddon, outside of the Hive cities, your lungs will just start to dissolve and rot because it's an industrial hellscape and there's so many toxins in the air. And of course, now it's full of God knows how much awful debris and all the sort of things that will come from the fallout of 3 gigantic wars, one of which is still ongoing. So if you try and just leave a Hive city and go for a walk, your lungs will just burn up, rot away, and that'll be it. You're gone. So they have these gas masks. They have these specially chemically treated coats. They always wear gloves whilst they're on Armageddon because otherwise, just the atmosphere itself, just being out and about on their home planet will generally kill them. So a lot of their protective gear is for the environment of where they're from, but it also means that when they get deployed elsewhere, they're really good for assaulting toxic environments and places that have heavy heavy damage to the environment itself, because they've already got all of the gear for that, because they have to have that to go for a walk outside at home.
Right. So if you wanted to go after, well, I guess I was going to say if you wanted to go for like a death world or something, or a heavily polluted world, like they would be perfect because they are literally built for that. Also, yeah, that picture of Armageddon is kind of crazy.
Hardcore. It's great.
I mean, that, to be fair, like the place is called Armageddon, and when I think of an Armageddon, it sure looks a lot like that. That is pretty spot on. Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's just good. Like, where does the fires end and the sky begins? I don't know, but I'm sure we'll figure it out if we look hard enough.
That's the fun part. It doesn't.
It's just one and the same. It's just all the same thing. What are those transports?
I was about to say the same thing, Kira. I actually dig the shit out of those.
They're awesome.
They're like, they're like
the
a
big
mixture.
Wheels are kind of a vibe, actually.
Well, not just that, but they also have a bunch of like the new Rogel Dorn accoutrement that it puts on the sides of it, like all the gas tanks and the it's the 40s thing where like you pull all your packs and stuff on the top.
Oh,
of
yeah.
You know, and
they
like,
look like Chimera, like the chassis is the Chimera, but then they've got these kind of running boards and then the wheels as well. And what are they? Where do I? Oh, okay. Custom made in White Dwarf.
Okay. Maybe the Torox wheels are being added, perchance.
Do they have to specially chemically treat like everything? Like, say that they take that transport outside. They've got all their supplies on the side. Do they have to like cover them in a tarp? Otherwise, like just the crazy atmosphere will just like start melting them. Like, do they have to do that with everything or just their skin?
Stuff that's like kind of like fibers and flesh and stuff needs to be protected, but as long as the transports and tanks are like properly sealed, then they're fine to go. They're fine to kind of go out into Armageddon proper. They do produce because of the
proper.
The
weird thing to say.
The proper bit of Armageddon.
Yeah.
They do produce their own versions of a few Imperial Guard tanks. So, like, the Basilisk and the Medusa are both tanks that have open tops. Well, technically, I think they're self-propelled guns, not tanks, before someone in A, the chat, or B, the comments gets annoyed at me. But because of where they come from, their versions of them have to be sealed. So they can't just be out and about.
Yeah.
So they have these special versions of them, which used to be available from Forge World. I don't know if they still are, but they look way better than the normal versions. So they also do their own version of the Sentinel as well, which I really, really like. It's like the coolest version.
Definitely that old school World War vibe for sure. Also, Shai said, these are the locations on Armageddon: the Fire Wastes, the Boiling Sea, Hive Deathmire, Hive Infernus, the Ash Waste, the Deadlands, etc. It's a nice place.
Oh,
Would love to vacation there.
Great.
Oh, yeah. The number one vacation spot in the Imperium.
There is somewhere that's been missed, which has to be mentioned, which is the Black Lung Tar Pits. So-
oh, my God. Oh, yeah. My dream job is to work the Black Lung Tar Pits. What a dream spot.
I'm just happy that they know I'm just happy they know where they are. You know, because you had, like I mentioned earlier, you had your Cadian one, right? And it's like the Fortress of Defiance, the Bastions of Honor. You get things like this, and there's like, hey, dude, where are you patrolling this time? Oh, I'm going to roll around in the Boiling Sea.
Yeah, I have to go scout out the Deathmire, the Hive Deathmire. Yeah, that's going to suck. Oh, well, that guy over there has to go, work all day in the Black Lung Death Tar Pits.
Nice.
Yeah.
They know what they've got. They know what they've got. They're not afraid to just be fully on board with it. Also, the Hades Hive, again, great. Complete lack of symbolism there. You know that's bad.
Shai said, you've been to the Inland Empire? Yeah, I used to live there. And that's basically Hive Deathmire. Yeah.
It's great. Armageddon is... there's a lot going for it, but only in a narrative sense. In terms of like, would you want to be here? 100% no. Not at any point. It's got to be one of the worst places to have to live or grow up. I mean, if you do get born there, you're born into a hive city. There's nowhere else for you to be. And because hive cities are also like, they're like habitation blocks, they're also administration blocks, they're also manufactories as well. So, you could grow up in a tiny room right next to a plant that's churning out millions of las guns a year, and then that come the right time, you too will move next door to help churn out millions of las guns a year. But before then, you could get involved in some sort of horrific gang war, which, sees half your family dead or whatever. But it's okay, because you then get saved from making the las guns, because there's been another push by the Orks in the never-ending third war for Armageddon, which means that you get recruited into the Steel Legion. So then you get to go outside, and by outside, I mean into that picture that Shai posted earlier. You got a grand life going on. Brilliant.
Yeah, that sounds like winning the shit lottery, being born on Armageddon, because like there's just no winning. You don't get to win. You don't get to be happy unless somehow you survive that hellscape. And they're like, oh yes, this Steel Legion, we need X amount of soldiers to leave Armageddon and go to some other death world. And it's like, oh, you know what? This is marginally better than that shithole I came from.
Okay, I'd like to think about a cultural thing here. I'm not sure if I'd say that you're not happy in this situation. I'd go with a much different attempt. I go more on the lines of like, hey, I love this place. I love fighting and murdering every single day. It's the best. I'm having a blast. I see it more on that side of the world.
You're sipping that corn juice, huh?
Listen, what was that old quote about Catachin where they're like, I've had 14 foot infections, 3 things try to bite my head off, and I've sweated so much fills an entire week's worth of canteen water. The Emperor save me. This place is just like home. I love it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, you know what? We're looking at it from the perspective of outsiders. If you're born there, the chance to go out and kill, potentially just an unending number of orks, it might be pretty cool. You might be brought up thinking, yeah, but one day, if you're lucky, you're going to get drafted and you're going to learn how to take an orc's head off with a very small knife in record time. And when that day comes, you're going to love it. You're going to be 100% on board, and it'll be like the best time of your life. I mean, that is actually something about the Steel Legion. Funnily enough, they do have particular speciality in killing orcs now.
They
should. Will not be shocked to learn.
Yeah, I was going to say, they've had a little practice, haven't they?
They're very good at it now. They're very specialized towards killing orcs.
Mm-hmm.
They also do something cool where they take the commanding officers' masks, like gas masks, rebreathers even, and they are sculpted into the form of skulls because the orcs are superstitious and it freaks them out. So you've got commanders walking around with a skull-shaped rebreather, which is,
that's
badass.
Pretty badass. That is very, very cool. But yeah, I guess when you grow up on Armageddon, that's the only life you ever know. So it's like you don't know that you have it bad. You're just like, hell yeah, brother, I'm going in to kill shit, and that's all I've ever known. And let's go. And yeah.
I actually, if I'm not mistaken, there was, I got to roll back to 9th edition 40K, but back when the rules were, the rules were different, but they were definitely more flavorful. I'll say
diplomatic.
That. I'll say that. They were certainly more fluffy. We'll go with that. But there were a couple of maybe not warlord traits, but there were certain kinds of relics and things you could take when in this world at the time, and the heirlooms of conquest, and I believe one of them was a Armageddon Steel Legion, I don't know, chain sword or something that specifically was meant to murder orcs, which was, I thought, quite funny.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. There was like they had a couple things like that, and it was just really it's very much like, yeah, these guys, just like how the Indigo Indigo prefects, I forget exactly their name. They're the people who are basically like Mortal Engines, the books and movie series. They got really, really good at killing NIDs, because killing titanic monsters is like just what they're up to.
Mm-hmm. So if there's a WA that breaks out in the Imperium, would they like call on the Steel Legion more than anybody else because that's like their thing? Or just
honestly, I don't know. I think they are still like active outside of Armageddon. They don't all just only like go for Armageddon, but it's like the vast majority of them are kind of busy there. There's like
I guess it's constant on. It's constant warfare on Armageddon, so it's like even if a WA breaks out somewhere else, it's not like they can spare guys to leave Armageddon.
Yeah, there's not a huge number of regiments that can just go out and about and go to other war zones.
Yeah.
They also produce like a vast number of Steel Legion as well. So I think it was in the second war for Armageddon. At one point, Armageddon itself was producing more troopers for the Steel Legion than 2 other planets combined.
Wow.
So they really churn them out. Like when things get really bad, they are very capable of just bolstering their forces. I mean, I have to admit, I feel like at some point that's got to stop being the case, right? That's got to stop being quite as doable.
I was going to ask, how exactly do you churn out more? Like, they just have like a fuck room where they're just like getting down and making more people? Are we
DK?
Do we have test
DK
tubes?
have some class in this.
What?
We have class on this podcast. All right.
What did I say? I'm just wondering, like,
what do you mean? What did you say?
What? I'm just how do they churn out more people than like, any other place? Like what? Like, do you have a lineup?
Yeah, God, indeed. Oh God, indeed.
What?
You shit.
Sir, the deep space scanners are picking up another Ork. Wow, do we need to ready the fuck rooms?
Open the fuck room.
Lord Commander, activate the goon cave. No, sir. We've never gone that fast before.
We've gone plaid.
I found the thing. This was actually back in 8th edition Warhammer, but like for example, if you played the Armageddon Steel Legion, to go past the fuck room part, the whole thing they had was your vehicles, I think, reduced the armor penetration of when they were being shot by 1, and they also gave you like, I think, closer rapid fire when you jumped out. But they actually had like their stratagem was, if you had an infantry unit that disembarked from a transport, you get to re-roll your hit rolls of 1 for that unit, because that's the whole idea: is run up, jump out, beat the shit out of them.
Yeah, okay. I remember that. Now you've it's so good. Like I miss that sort of like really fluffy approach.
I really do too. It had like such a vibe to it, like just such a level to it. Like I don't know, like Armageddon Steel Legion warlord trait, ex-gang leader. It is common amongst the regiments of Armageddon to recruit from the underhive gangs of the planet's towering metropoly. Those who once led gangs in urban warfare fight dirty even on the fields of open war. Add 1 to this warlord's attacks characteristic, and add 1 to the wound rolls in melee, because they're nasty gangers. Or I only have one other thing that I know of. Here we go. Heirlooms of the regiments. We have Armageddon character, the Skull Mask of Acheron. Possessing an almost totemic quality, the Skull Mask has been worn by a succession of Steel Legion commanders. He who dons it puts aside his identity, but carries a fell reputation as a killer of Xenos. Enemy units suffer a -1 to their leadership. Ork units suffer a -2. So yeah, it's really fluffy. It's really good in that kind of stuff, and it's sad that it doesn't have that same flavor.
Yeah,
it fits the lore.
Yeah.
I always find it cool, like, because I know nothing about the tabletop, and it's always really cool when like they actually add in like these special like stratagems and skills that are like directly tied into the lore that they made, and it's like this is how they work, and they also work that way in the tabletop. I think that's neat.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it all kind of makes me think of I was going to say the good old days, but that's things are definitely, like, mostly quite a bit better. Things like the pinnacle of Games Workshop's codex writing for me is still like the Chaos 3.5 codex for 40k, because it was a small book, and each of the like Chaos Legions, as they've now been sort of turned into calling them, they had like 2 to 3 pages of rules and fluff, but they were so well written and they were so thematic that you could get a feel for what each individual one was about just off those pages. Like, they introduced just enough that you knew exactly what each one of them was without even having a full codex to themselves. And stuff like those rules, I don't know, I think it just adds a lot whilst also being kind of functional at the same time. Now, Shai has just pointed something out. They are so into killing orcs. They have an unrelated faction of orc hunters who are not part of the Steel Legion, but they live in the woods and hunt orcs. And they got so hardcore into orcs, they wear orky face paint, wear orc totems and symbols, sometimes believe in Gork and Mork, and can use orc weapons without them breaking apart. But that's a different topic.
Oh,
it's a little heretical on that one.
It's just a little.
It's all right. We don't need to worry
the
about
fact that they got so good at killing orcs and believe in Gork and Mork and can actually use like orc shooters properly.
Oh, hell yeah. Look at that. Look at that.
Is kind of crazy. Also, those old minis are. Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
I'm pretty sure you can still buy those now.
Wait, I think those are Catachan.
I think they're just Catachans painted green.
They're Catachans painted green with a shooter.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure you can just go. You can go to Warhammer.com and pick those up this minute if you really want to.
That's really funny.
That is really great. I kind of love that.
Maybe that needs to be explored more. I mean, that's great.
Oh, absolutely. Update those minis. Let me get some 2024 versions of. Do they have a name, Shai? Or are they just unrelated orc dudes? Unrelated humans that think they're orcs?
I could have sworn I had there we go.
Oh, they're just Armageddon orc hunters. Fitting name.
Look, they know what they like. Done. They know what they like, and they go hard into it.
Yeah. So this is like, Shai must hate these guys because she's big orc. She must hate these guys. Like, this must be her most hated group. Like, well, not the orc hunters, but like just the Armageddon Steel Legion in general.
Shai would have to care.
Also, the orcs started it. Like, you can't be mad at them. They very much they started it.
Okay. All right.
They came in. They wanted to go. They got to go. That's just how it is.
Although, I guess that's true. I guess technically orcs must love it on Armageddon, and they probably love fighting the Steel Legion because that's a good crumpin'. So
I'm pretty sure with when it comes to the different wars for Armageddon, like, I don't know if each one of them could be a standalone episode, but like there's a lot to unpack there. Like, there's a lot that goes on in each of the wars for Armageddon. I think by the time the third war for Armageddon hits, at some point it's just become such a it's become almost like a pilgrimage destination, I think, if I remember correctly, where it's just, this is a place of eternal, never-ending war. You've got humans to fight, you've got demons to fight, there's wild new things to experience when it comes to murdering other people every single day, and orcs absolutely love it. They can't get enough.
I guess the orcs would unironically just adore the Steel Legion and love fighting them. And just, this is my favorite. This is heaven. Like you said, it's their mecca. Shai said Gaz in the book says that he loves it, and it's his picture of the perfect galaxy of unending eternal war. Huh. I didn't remember him saying that, but yeah, like I said, I don't know why, but I
imagine it was one of his comments in the Ghazghkull book, just sent around. But it makes sense. I mean, the War for Armageddon also contained our favorite commissar, Mr. Commissar Yarrick, as well.
May he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. As a whole
legend.
Horror. I wonder if the next book will have him like in it, and he'll like die in that book, and that's kind of like the whole point.
Yeah, just give some finality and closure to it.
I mean, they showed his bones in like a codex.
I know, I don't like it though. I want him back. He's great.
I know they showed it, but I don't like it.
Yeah, you can acknowledge that something happened and still be like, I'm not a fan. I just he is like too old. He is too old.
I was about to say, like in the timeline, we're hundreds of years. We're hundreds of years past the time. I mean, rejuvenation therapy for regular humans only goes so far.
Yeah.
Maybe he's using some, sneaky Xenos injections to prolong his life. They do that, right?
How dare you assume that the glory of Commissar Yarrick would ever use Xenos?
I was going to say.
How dare you?
Everybody's got their skeletons in their closet, and Yarrick he's on the side. He juices a little bit,
Look, we've seen his skeleton, and clearly it's not having any sort of Xenos nonsense keeping him alive, right? We know that it's not on the table for him. And to be fair, if they did that to him, that would be so much worse than him somehow miraculously being alive in any other way. There's just some people you can't do that to, and he's definitely up there as one that you just can't do that to.
He's juicing on orc blood.
Actually,
he's juicing on orc blood.
He's juicing on orc blood.
Lance Armstrong has nothing on this guy. Who needs the Tour de France when you have the Tour de Armageddon?
Tour de Armageddon, yeah. Is
that what they used to get?
This
people,
mother's juicing on orc blood.
That's what they give you as a drink on the way into the fuck room, I think, just to get a little.
And it all comes back around.
An orc cocktail before you re-enter the goon room.
You're welcome, everyone. I'm sorry to put this evil on you.
So Shai makes an interesting thing about the whole Pepe Sylvia bit about oh no, the orcs believe he's still alive, so he'll be alive. I think they got the wrong Pepe Sylvia. I think the actual Pepe Sylvia is that the entire Yarrick thing is part of an Imperial book, which is often Imperial propaganda. And so having him as some kind of martyr to stir up the troops is something they would totally do. That would be the actual propaganda, I think, but I also still think it's bullshit because he's supposed to be 500 years old or whatever he is.
Yeah, he's definitely getting on too much for my request that he still be alive, to be reasonable. But I don't know. Ever since I saw him on the cover of Codex Armageddon way back with the really insanely big power claw that he stole. It's just that image alone is enough to just want him to stick around for really too long of a time. But
he's so cool. I don't know. Every depiction of him is so boss.
I don't know what it was about you saying that, Kirioth. About you saying just the really baller power claw, and I'm just of all the adjectives to use, I mean, you're right, but just damn, what a guy.
It is a baller power claw. He's not wrong.
Yeah, but Yarrick would take offense to this. Yarrick
what would Yarrick call it?
Yarrick would call it he'd call it the orc ender. He'd call it the devastation of the greenskins.
Okay.
I mean, right. His Baneblade was called the Fortress of Arrogance, which is hardcore.
It is hardcore. I will say, I remember they talk about this in the Caiaphas Cain book. I believe Inquisitor, what's her buckets? Amberly Vale.
What's her buckets?
I forgot her name for a second. I believe Inquisitor Amberly Vale was we've spoken to the great hero Commissar Yarrick, and he's boring as shit. He's the most like stuffy, like annoying general type. He's just like, oh, the Imperium, and I am a strong man fighting off the Xenos, and it's like that's all he is. And she was like, God, I can't stand this guy.
I don't remember that, but I mean, when all you know is being a commissar and killing orcs, probably pretty boring at parties, but you're probably pretty entertaining on the battlefield.
I kind of feel like that's not all that surprising. I don't know why. He looks stuffy, He looks kind of stuffy, and as though he wouldn't be that fun at a party. Great in a battle.
Every picture of him is so cool. Like, he doesn't have a bad piece of art. He seems like he should be interesting always.
So good. Even if, yes, he does sort of have a bit of a testicular face in one of the models.
Oh, yeah. That's the old model is
it's
not
a Balchinian.
So what's the next thing about the Steel Legion, since we have veered ever so slightly off course here?
Oh, I mean, he's kind of related, kind of. Although
he fights orcs. Orcs are on Armageddon. Armageddon is where Steel Legion are,
There is an excellent picture of a Steel Legion commissar.
What is that's their commissar? That's so cool.
It's pretty good. Pretty good. The rebreather adds a lot in terms of making them look absolutely terrifying. You'll be unsurprised to know that Games Workshop did produce miniatures for them for quite a while. I don't think they ever got around to finishing the miniature line for them.
Shocking.
Not that long ago, they did do some made-to-order stuff for them, so you can get a bit of a feel for how the minis look. They're not the worst.
Well, I think they're not the worst because most of their faces are covered by the masks and stuff, so you can't see the... And honestly, even looking at these old ones just with the coats, those proportions are something weird. There's something... Like, I don't know if it's because like the coats are too short and the legs are too long or something, but something is very off about those minis.
I mean, yeah, they're not like... They're not quite up to the current standard, I think is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah.
But if I remember correctly, the weird thing with the Steel Legion line, because they used to do loads of different, they did quite a few different Imperial Guard lines. They had the Cadians, they also had Steel Legion, Catachan, which is still available, Mordians, Vostroyans, they did a fair few, but it's almost like they were kind of passion projects for certain sculptors in a way, because some of them just never got finished. So the Vostroyans, I think, only had a squad. I don't even know if they had more than one heavy weapons team, the Vostroyans. But the same thing was kind of happened with the Steel Legion as well, where you kind of ended up with almost enough to have every entry in the codex, but not quite. And then Games Workshop decided to pare everything down and just got rid of all the kind of I guess specialist Imperial Guard stuff. So now, if you want to build an army of Steel Legion, you kind of have to wait for them to do a made to order, once every 2 years or whenever they're going to do the next one.
Ew.
Or alternatively, you buy the Death Corps of Krieg kill team a lot and do some extreme kit bashing. There's not that many options, unfortunately.
Ew. All right.
I mean, the Death Corps of Krieg kill team does look very, very good.
It does.
But it is definitely... Yeah, if you've seen all the old sculpts for these models, they're pretty... I mean, I can't believe the Catachan are still available.
It's mind-blowing.
They're so bad.
Those original Catachan are still available? The really, really horrible-looking face ones?
Oh,
yeah.
I'm gonna link you up
please.
Right now.
Those are still available. I thought those were just super old ones, and surely they had been updated by now.
No.
Oh, no way! Oh, that is offensive to all my senses.
What a time.
I love how actually infuriated you are. That's great.
I genuinely cannot. But
they are.
That is the meme picture, right? That is like whenever someone's like, "Oh, thin your paints. Look at the catachin." It's those are still available.
Yep, there you go. Right now, £22.50. If you, I don't know, have no self-respect. I don't know.
Have no self-respect. Oh, they're so bad.
$22.50 is insanity for this.
How are these still like? How?
Now, to be fair, they do have one good older sculpt. They do have one good older sculpt. And that's Sergeant
Harker good, but okay.
Please,
I mean, comparatively.
So if you want to run a catachin on the tabletop, you have to use these ones? Like, there's no updated... Wow!
No, that's incorrect. You 3D print or you buy a third party is what you do.
Oh, okay, because...
yeah, that's the other...
I am shocked, because catachins are so popular!
The official... Yeah. So a reminder, though. They did sell a new catachin character kit just recently. 2 of them, in fact. And they look very, very good. I own both.
Yes, those do look great.
Those are phenomenal miniatures. But yes, they do have not updated the actual kit. They might when the Guard Codex comes out, because they did Death Corps last year. Yeah. You know, it makes sense.
I am befuddled.
Can you just be
excellent
fuddled?
Word.
I cannot be fuddled.
Great word for that.
I can't be fuddled.
Somebody else talk. Right now. Somebody else talk immediately.
I'm now immediately upset as well because Shai said that they took the Grot tanks from the store and I knew they'd gone to Legends. They got rid of the Grot tanks out of the store. You can't buy the Grot tanks anymore?
Can I share? I shared this with a Poor Hammer podcast for the Data Slate talk. I have to share my favorite meme that I found about that. It's like, first they came for the Greater Narlock, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the Heresy Dreadnoughts, and I did not speak out because I was not an Imperial. Then they came for the Decimators, and I did not speak out because I was not a heretic. Then they came for the Terax Pattern Drills, and I did not speak out because I was not a Cheese Lord. Then they came for me Grots, and there was no one left to speak out for da boys.
That's honestly just like that's devastating. And I just had a look, and it says temporarily out of stock. I don't trust them. Does that mean that they're going to get rid of the Kill Burster and Kill Blaster as well? Because that's one of the best vehicles they've ever made. Okay, I'm starting to have palpitations.
Okay, that's all right. We need to veer this. All right, Steel Legion, huh? What about those Steel Legion, huh? Let's kill some orcs, huh? Let's go to war, shall we? You know what I mean? How you doing?
Grot tanks to Steel Legion killing them. So there is Games Workshop is killing. That's what I'm going to call the video. Actually, I'm not. That would get me in trouble, I think. So there is a couple of things. There is a couple of like notable like Steel Legion regiments that it's worth talking about. There's one which is a group of Steel Legion who put down a rebellion in 6 hours. Quite impressive.
Wow.
They heard that there was a rebellion going on, and they decided, not today. We're not having this. What we're actually going to do is we're just going to go straight up to the Imperial Palace on the planet, and we're going to put everyone down and restore order straight off the bat.
Okay,
pretty good.
Efficient,
pretty good.
Sure.
So it's the 16th. It's the 16th Steel Legion, led by Colonel Kleist, and he was stationed on a planet called Castle. He got exemplary service in a campaign, so it was kind of a sort of like an easy posting, I guess. But the planetary governor decided to go his own way and declared a rebellion. At which point, Colonel Kleist got his lads, loaded them up, into Chimeras, obviously, went straight to the planet's capital and just took control. Restored order within 6 hours of a rebellion starting. So, I think it's fair to say, even just taking that as an example, they don't mess around, the Steel Legion. Yeah. They don't mess around. They get it done nice and quick.
They took him right to the fuck room.
The Goon Cave.
They took him right in. Open the doors.
Straight to the Goon Cave.
Uh-huh.
There is also a really just ridiculous story from the Third War of Armageddon. So, to give a bit of context as to how big the factories on Armageddon are, there was like entire battles fought in the factories. So you had Orks and you had Steel Legion troopers fighting like they would just on a standard battlefield, except it's in a gigantic building where there are chimeras being built in front of them and like components for Lehman Russ tanks going past on conveyor belts.
Oh, is that would be like which Star Wars had it? I think it was the second one of the prequels, where like they're in the factory and the robots are getting pressed and right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Those are okay. I'm on board.
So they didn't just have Lehman Russ's chimeras and troopers, also basilisks in the factory. Just want to remind you what the basilisk is. That is a extremely long range artillery piece. That's like it can fire insane distances, and they were using those in the factory because of how big the factory is. And the 339th Steel Legion, which are nicknamed the Ironheads, they had a massive battle within this factory, and they managed to fight the length of the factory, and they used to transport themselves around chimeras that had literally just rolled up the production line. So they got into chimeras that had just been built in the place they were fighting in and did a full mechanized assault straight into the Ork lines and basically pushing them out of the factory into the wastes around, like onto Armageddon Prime.
It's got that new car smell.
It's
you said they were using is the Basilisk the one that's like launches ICBMs?
No, it is. In fact, I can just put it.
Because I was like, that is
this one.
That's a hell of a. Oh, okay, got you. Okay,
but it's still a long range artillery unit. Like it's still an insane thing to be using in a building.
Yeah, I was like, if they're using like ICBMs in a factory, what the kind of factory is this? Like, where are we?
I'm imagining like a Death Strike missile launcher, just being like, "Fuck, we gotta launch it. Let's just send it.
Send it. Just push the button.
Oh man,
let's go."
I miss when the Death Strike missile launcher was better. I'm sad. I made myself sad.
Yeah.
I still miss when
Basilisks are funny though. Have you seen? Okay, hold on. Keep doing your thing because I'm about to go off on new minis again, and I like it's the new Solar Auxilia kit, so like it's worth to go off on. But we'll continue this first.
That's
yeah.
fair.
Keep going with Steel Legion. He'll Google the thing.
The other one that I wanted to highlight was the 808th Steel Legion, who they have an interesting approach to things. So they are literally known for like aggressive officers who have an interesting like style when it comes to leading the troops.
Oh no, whenever you use the adjective interesting for someone in 40K, there's a chance that it's like, oh yeah, they have an interesting side hobby. They like to, I don't know, use entrails as necklaces and headbands and you dance around with their bones and play the drums on your please tell me about his interesting habits.
Oh, well, this was more just, fighting against Orks, obviously, and getting kind of trashed by them initially. the Orks just kept using the terrain, stranding transports so that the regiment couldn't get around, like getting them stuck in like canyons and passes and stuff, and then overwhelming the Steel Legion by being Orks up close and personal. And they ended up having a really odd fight where there was just a bunch of chimeras with the 808th in them on patrol, except they encountered a bunch of mutants and psychers led by someone in spiky power armor. So in the middle of a fight against the Orks, they just randomly came across, in what was supposed to be a training exercise, basically a Chaos Space Marine and a bunch of freaks, and ended up having a really horrific close-range fight because someone, presumably one of the Psychers, caused a small earthquake which just made the Chimeras useless, just trapping them, and the Steel Legion had to fight not just the actual physical enemy that they were dealing with, but they also had to fight through, like, projections and visions. So walking through big masses of fire and being assaulted by slime, like actual moving, think like a what is it called?
Slime girls?
Shut
I wasn't going to go slime girls.
Shut your ass.
Yo, slime girls, sign me up. Sign me up for the Steel Legion. Let's go.
Chai, kill him.
What?
Chai, put him in an early grave.
Just want to fight the good fight.
Chai, destroy his balls.
Oh,
I was going to go to
me.
Q from D&D, so I don't like...
Spin him around all silly like.
She muted me. That's okay. I'm recording, so I didn't even say anything more.
Just slime girls was enough. Look,
yeah, that's fair.
Effectively, it did not go well for them. They did technically win because they're Steel Legion and they have the ability to survive horrendous environments. They've got the rebreathers, they've got their treated coats, they've got, just an attitude that won't quit, but it was a Pyrrhic victory and there were not many of them left at the end of it. All of that just off a training exercise.
Yo, in another Imperial Pyrrhic victory, we love to see it. You love to see it.
It happens a lot, and we like it every time.
All the time. We love the Imperial Pyrrhic victory. It's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go, baby.
Let's go.
Extreme losses that we'll never recover from. Except we will in like 3 days. Let's go.
Typical Imperium Pyrrhic dub.
Let's go.
All right, what's next for the Steel Legion, Kirioth?
I think pretty much there's not like a vast amount until you go into like the different wars for Armageddon, where you start to get really granular in different combats and stuff, and what different regiments did. In terms of just the Steel Legion as a whole, that's a fairly good overview. So
okay.
I think whatever Bricky's now cooked up in the gap between being sad about Death Strike missiles.
What were you gonna show us, Bricky?
I was just talking about like the new Solar Auxilia 40K stuff, because we were chatting. They have a very like diesel punk new thing they got going on for it, which is really fun. But we were talking about the Basilisks and stuff, right? And like they have a new Basilisk version in that whole group. But remember, you mentioned the Sentinel that the Steel Legion kind of had going on with it, and I feel like the new Solar Auxilia Sentinel is a lot more Sentinel-y for the Steel Legion. It'd be a great kind of kit bash for that, because it's got this really like Dishonored looking kind of game vibe to it. It's like totally different.
Yeah, it's sick.
Yeah. It's super sick, man. It's also DK Solar Auxilia are the Imperial Guardsmen on Terra.
Oh, okay.
So
I guess that
like
makes sense.
Best of the best, you know.
Okay, gotcha.
But they have a very They have a very interesting look to them. I gotta be honest. It's not like what you would imagine when you think of like the top end, but they got that was it kind of Romanish? Their the way they look.
A little bit.
A little bit. It's neat. It's a neat little thing to look at. So
they've got like void sealed suits and stuff so that they can survive in vacuum and things. They're really cool. Plus they have like their tanks just look more. I think yeah, like diesel punk is kind of the phrase. Like they've got like decoration on them, and also they made the Lehman Russ look better because they took bits of the armor off the side panels so that you can see more of the tracks, so they don't look like they'd get stuck on a small incline anymore, which is nice. It's just a real shame that they decided to release those after I've got 10 of the normal ones, but whatever. The only thing with the Sentinel, I wasn't sure about it at first, and I still think it does kind of look like a fridge on legs, but I really like it now.
It does look like a fridge on legs. It absolutely does. But
it kind of does.
I think I've slowly just kind of appreciated it more with time, because I don't know, like you can do your AT-AT type thing, but that just looks like a little bit more hulking, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not really sure why, but it reminds me of like one of those Portal robots from like Portal 2, just like on a bigger scale.
The little like bee-hoop.
Like like the little egg ones.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, that's the immediate thing I got first. I
don't know, like I find the new kits are really interesting because like they have, that's the old Basilisk you see up there, but this is like the Solar Auxilia Basilisk.
Yeah, it looks great.
Which feels a lot better. I mean, it can't really turn, I guess, so there's that, but it's artillery, so whatever. But like the Lehman Russ tank, right? Like the Lehman Russ of the Solar Auxilia is just very, that was the link, my bad. Is very much, we talked about this a bit before, Kirioth especially, but like the new Space Marine Terminators, they're like the exact same. Yeah. But they just got that little tweak that makes them like just that good. And that's kind of how I feel with the new Lehman Russ. It's got that tiny little adjustment and it looks great.
Yeah, there's just little things they've done to it where the shape of the turret is slightly different. I feel like such a even by the standards of like, you know, when you are like a 40k fan or just a fan of anything, I guess. But I really feel like I enter a new realm of being a bit too into something when I start comparing like the Solar Auxilia Lehman Russ to the standard one, because of things like the turret looking a little bit different. There's just a slightly different shape to it, and it's got a bit more kind of reinforcement on the side, but also the side panels where you can see the tracks more because that shows more of the suspension. Whereas on the normal Lehman Russ, it's entirely covered up, so you can't see the suspension, which just makes it look like it's lower to the ground, which means that the ground clearances are good. But then it's better on these. It's like loads of little just improvements all over it that just add up to making the whole thing just feel like that much, I don't know, just that much better than before. Like there was nothing wrong with the Lehman Russ that they've had for, you know, years now, but this is just better. All because of just little things all over it, just little tiny details.
Nice.
Yeah, it just has that little bit, you know?
Yeah.
It's been lifted.
They've been lifted, and they're also in plastic, which is very nice. God.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I never buy Forge World stuff because it's not safe, and they're going to remove it at some point. Sorry, Custodes players. The whole, I mean, enjoy your Calidus tanks for as long as you can, because I just have a feeling that they're gonna go. But these are plastic, and this is just, it's a Lehman Russ tank. You're making a Lehman Russ tank. The Lehman Russ will not leave.
Yeah.
I know. It's some neat stuff.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, I say to this conversation.
Hell yeah, DK says to this.
Hell yeah, I say to this conversation. So are we calling that an episode? Are we saying that this is...
Hey, what other Mechanicus stuff do you got? I'm curious.
Ooh.
Did I say Mechanicus?
You did.
Oh crap!
Are we doing Mechanicus?
Nope,
are we
absolutely
hard turning?
I was looking at when I was looking up the things for the Solar Auxilia. I saw Forces of the Cult Mechanicum, and I did that thing where you're reading, but you meant to say something else, but you said the word.
I was gonna say
we've all been there.
Anything else for Armageddon Steel Legion?
I think that's it. That's a good place to leave it. I think there's at least half of that was about the Steel Legion, which is about on par for us for these episodes, isn't it?
At least half of that was Steel Legion, so that's about
the ratio we usually manage.
That's a pretty good conversion rate. Sure.
So what is it? A race to the fuck room now, and we'll just see how.
Yo, Steel Legion boys, let's go. Let's hit it. You think the Chimera?
I'm heading to the Goon Cave after this. I don't know about you guys.
The Chimera's the mobile Goon Cave. Mobile Goon Cave.
Oh no!
Yes!
What have I done? This is my fault.
This really is
my fault. This is all my fault. I am Shy. Please have a stiff drink on me when you are putting this thing together because I am so sorry.
You can have a stiff fucking punch.
Well, she can't reach through the computer, and if she could, I would never leave the hospital.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that power has not been manifested, or we would all have black eyes.
I think my windpipe would have been crushed many times by now, and
Yet.
All right, I will remember. I'll get the old hockey gear out if that ever happens, because I will need the protection. So
90% of gambling addicts quit before they're punched by Shy.